clicking of my thumbs. Something wicked this way comes.
To start, in my culture, we avoid saying ghosts, especially the particular ghosts' names. For example, in Western culture there's Banshee, Woman in White, Boogeyman and stuff like that. In my culture, I'm Malaysian, we have ghosts like Pontianak, Pokong, Toyol, Lang Suir, among others. Saying their names out loud is said to summon them. I love ghost stories, but not the Western kind. I love Asian ghost stories, perhaps because that's what I grew up with. I find them spookier than Western ghosts. Due to the language barrier, there is not a lot of Malaysian ghost stories available in English, so 6 years ago, I started a YouTube channel where I read ghost stories that are mainly from Southeast Asia. I would record my voice, reading the stories at home, of course. I was living with another girl at the time. She also happened to be my colleague. We were working at a customer service call center that operates 24 hours, and our shift rotates weekly. Our 2-bedroom apartment was really small, so there was barely any privacy when it comes to noises, so I would usually only record when my roommate was out. I didn't want to bother her with my voice, and I would prefer not to have sounds from her going about her life in my recording. One time my roommate was working the overnight shift. She left around 8 o'clock in the evening, and I just got home from work 2 hours prior, so I decided to record my second video. About half an hour after my roommate left for work, I started recording in my bedroom. I think it was little more than halfway through the second story. I heard someone entering the apartment. This was weird since her shift should at least take about 8.5 hours. I thought if she came home early, it would be more than likely that she's not feeling well, so I went to check on her. When I went to look for her, she was nowhere to be found. The only logical explanation was the sound was from the next door unit, so I went back to recording. Not more than 15 minutes later, I heard the sound of a chair being pulled from under the dining table, and followed by running water in our shower room just seconds later. Confident I was home alone, I went to check. My bedroom door was facing directly to the shower room door. As soon as I opened my bedroom door, I had a clear view of the opened shower door, revealing a dark shower room. At this point, I was getting nervous. My thoughts were all over the place. I froze for a bit before I decided to look into the shower. The sound of the water running could still be heard. When I flicked the shower room light on, the shower was running, but there was no one in there. I turned off the shower and went looking for my roommate again. Maybe I missed her the first time, but still, I found nobody in the apartment. I was a little nervous, but was determined to continue recording. I wanted to be a YouTuber and hoping one day I can quit my job and tell ghost stories full time. So I did. I finished recording the stories and went straight into editing. Around 1 AM, I needed a toilet break. The toilet was separate from the shower and could only be accessed through the kitchen. After I had done my business, and while I was passing through the kitchen, I could hear a giggle from the living room. That stopped me in my tracks. I had a clear view of the well-lit living room. There was obviously no one there. At this point, I knew I was not alone. I ran into my bedroom and locked the door behind me. I hid under my covers, and that's when I heard something try to open my bedroom door. It went on for what felt like forever. I fell asleep and somehow I finished editing my story, posted it a few days later. Everything quietened down for a while, so I decided to record another story. This time I was recording during the daytime. It was my off day and my housemate was out shopping or something. Everything went smoothly, so smoothly that I was able to post the video by the time my housemate came home. That night we decided to watch a movie together. Before we started the movie, I went into the kitchen to make myself some snacks while my roommate picked a movie. Our TV is positioned on the same wall that divided the living room and my bedroom, and the sofa right across from it. So you can see the kitchen door and shower room door when sitting on the sofa. As I was coming out from the kitchen, I asked my roommate if she has found a movie. She was looking at me with a surprised look. "Didn't you just go into the shower room like 30 seconds ago?" she asked. I just shook my head and went to sit. The topic was dropped and we picked a Malaysian horror comedy movie. Mid-movie, our shower room door whipped open violently, and we heard what sounded like a giggle. My roommate decided to sleep in my room that night. That was the last time we watched anything related to ghosts. Since then, I often hear furniture being moved, giggles, and see shadows moving my peripherals. But whenever I turn to look, there is nothing. Sometimes even when my roommate is home. She has also experienced some spooky stuff in the apartment, like her back being tapped by something while she was in the kitchen, hearing my voice calling her name when I was not home, and shadows running from the kitchen into the shower room while she was watching TV in the living room. I stayed there for a few more months until my roommate quit her job to move back to her hometown, and I decided to move in with another colleague. The new house was much larger. It was a 3-story house. I stopped recording ghost stories for a while after that. Even though I love ghost stories, I do not particularly like experiencing one. It took me about 8 or 9 months before I had the courage to record another one. It was not a very good idea. I'll post that story soon. And if you're wondering why I'm sharing this story now, apparently, even after I stopped recording ghost stories, I still encounter supernatural activity. So I thought I may as well share it anyway. So this happened in 2019, but to fill in the gap, I moved from the old apartment to a new place sometime in December 2016. My life got busy, but I managed to record one video sometime in 2018, but I didn't really stick to it. I got married by the end of 2018 with a Canadian citizen, and we moved into our rental 3-bedroom low-cost flat on the other side of the city. Due to him not having any work visa while staying in Malaysia, he was mostly doing online studies and helping me around the house. After a while, he got depressed due to lack of progress in his personal career growth. So I came up with the idea, why don't we restart my Ghost Stories YouTube channel? But this time, he can help me edit and tell stories. He agreed and we started recording sometime in September 2019. The first video was recorded with ease. Nothing scary happened. It was all fine and dandy. However, we did avoid recording at night, especially after my husband found out the legend behind the theme song that I chose. The song is called Euthanized. It is said that this song was a mantra that was used by witch doctors to repel or cleanse dark spirits. For easy understanding, I will refer to it as an exorcism from now on. According to the legends, the song came into existence after a witch doctor tried to save a fisherman who became unconscious after going on a fishing trip. It was said his soul was trapped in the jinn's world after 7 jinn princesses became fond of him. After a while, the exorcism ritual becomes more elaborate and includes dancing. With the time passing and the people of Peninsular Malaysia being introduced to religion, first Hinduism, then Islam, and animism fades, the Euthanized becomes nothing more than just a folk song and dance routine. However, it is still rumored to cause possession amongst dancers while performed. So it became less and less popular. But I thought it would be a good idea to use it as a theme song, and I somehow thought it would be okay if I sang it myself, cause it's not real. I admit, it was not a very smart move. However, things started to get weird during the recording of the second video. We did our recording session 1 story a day kind of thing because even though my husband was a stay-at-home husband, I still have a full-time job. During the recording of the last story, we ran a little late and ended up recording until close to dusk, around 7 p.m. Since our goal was to post every Friday, and that was a Friday evening, I talked my husband into editing the video that night. Since our video is just an audio video, and there is not that much to edit, it only took him less than 2 hours to get it all done and posted on the YouTube channel. The rest of our night went like normal, until it was time to go to bed. It was not even midnight, and we were laying on our bed trying to fall asleep. Then, we heard what sounded like chairs being dragged from upstairs. Soon after, we heard the same ticking sound, like when a handful of marbles hit the floor, also from upstairs. After this had been going on for about 5 minutes, reality hit me. We are the upstairs neighbor. Our apartment is only 5 stories high. Our unit is the top leftmost unit. My first guess was there's someone squatting on the roof, but then there's no simple or easy access to the roof at all. Since my husband didn't mention it, and I didn't want to freak him out, I just kept quiet about it. We went to bed, but we kept hearing the noises almost every night since then. One evening, we were watching some anime in our living room, when suddenly an empty cup that was on our dining table just randomly fell onto the floor. We were both startled and got up to check it out. We tried to reason it as the wind knocking the cup off the table because it was a plastic cup, even though that doesn't make any sense. There is no window in our dining room. Our landlord is a contractor. Even though the outside of the flat looks pretty run down, the inside of our flat is pretty nice and was newly renovated just before we moved in. He even divided the wet kitchen and the dry kitchen with a classy looking glass wall and glass door. The other windows were kept closed as we run the AC. The same night I was woken up by my husband's half scream. When I got up, he looked like he was having a bad dream, so I woke him up. He told me that he saw an old woman with a scary face walking towards him from our door. We had our headboard on the wall opposite to the door, and our feet were pointed towards the bedroom door. He said he thought he woke up and saw the old woman approaching him, but he couldn't move, so he tried to scream. He insisted that I play some Islamic prayer until he fell back asleep. My husband is Caucasian. He was Christian until his family had a fallout with their church when he was in his early teens. So most of his life, he didn't really have a particular faith. So for him to ask me to play an Islamic prayer is serious. At least, that's how I feel, because I am not religious and don't really talk about religion to him, let alone impose it on him. That's only the beginning of our scary life in that apartment. After the first time my husband had the night terror, we continued to record another video. The last video we recorded in Malaysia. Partly because we wanted to do it in hopes that it would turn into something we do full time, as we enjoyed telling ghost stories. We still do, that's why I'm writing this now. My husband was finally excited about something since the time he became a house husband, and it was a nice at-home activity for us, like spending quality time. While recording the third video, posted at the end of September 2019, we were careful to do it only during the day. However, it didn't save us or make the haunting in our home any better. In fact, the furniture dragging and marble dropping was becoming more often, up to the point that we could hear it every night. On top of that, my husband's night terrors also became more frequent. Playing Ayatul Kursi became our nightly routine, and when we forgot, my husband would have a night terror. It never stopped the sounds though. We kept hearing it. Apart from that, things were quiet for the rest of 2019. The most frightening thing happened in January of 2020, a couple of weeks before we left for Canada. My husband and I were packing our stuff, and we stayed up until much later than we usually did. We were using clothes that we were not planning to wear as wraps for our breakable items and putting them in the boxes in the living room. Our living room was well lit, and we usually left the balcony light off. This made the glass door to our balcony become more reflective, and we can barely see outside apart from the lights coming from the parking lot and the stairs light from the flat across from ours. We also had no drapes for our balcony door. The landlord didn't put up any curtain rod there for some reason. We didn't install our own because we didn't know how long we were going to stay there. We were waiting for the results of my PR application and were planning to move to Canada as soon as we got it. As we were packing, we heard what seemed like someone knocking on our balcony door with their long fingernails. We both instinctively turned our heads to the balcony and stared at it for a good 15 seconds. We saw nothing. And then we heard it again. There was still nothing. Our balcony was bare. There was nothing out there that could hit the glass door. My husband grabbed my arm and signaled me to get up, and we both went to our bedroom, and I played the Ayatul Kursi from my phone. After a couple of minutes, we could hear the nails on our bedroom window now. I decided to recite the Ayatul Kursi myself, with a louder voice. Midway through, our window rattled for 2 or 3 seconds, and the knocking and tapping sound disappeared, and we never did hear it again until we moved to Canada. The furniture dragging and marble dropping noise could still be heard every other night though. I am not sure if the next tenants who lived in that flat faced the same issues as us or not. I'm just hoping they didn't. After we moved to Canada, we stayed at my mother-in-law's apartment for a year. We recorded a couple of times during the pandemic out of boredom and hopes that we are in a new country and maybe it would be alright. It totally wasn't. Thanks for listening.
Hello watchers and listeners, thank you so much for watching. As always, a big thank you to all of the Reddit users who kindly allowed me to use their stories. If you want to help support this channel, you will find links to both my Patreon and my Teespring store in the description below, so feel free to have a look. And the biggest thank you to all of you who continue to support me. I truly do appreciate it. And remember,
Papa loves you.